If you're thinking about buying a house, what I'm about to tell you might change your mind. Before you make a big financial decision, you need to make sure you weigh all the pros and cons. And one of the biggest financial decisions you will ever face after leaving your parents' house is whether you should buy or rent the place you'll call home. Now, there are many factors that would influence this decision. Financial factors such as how much income you make per month, the interest rate offered by the bank, or how much cash you have for a down payment. Non-financial factors such as will you stay in that city for the next 10 years? Are you single or do you have a family? Or do you want the house as a home or a rental property? Considering that most likely you'll spend the next 20 to 30 years paying that house, it's probably a good idea to arm yourself with as much knowledge as you can before signing a mortgage. So where do you start? Hello everyone, my name is Antonio. I'm a finance manager at Google, and in this channel we talk about finance and technology to help you raise your business acumen. First, let's go back in time. The American dream. In 1945, the end of World War II, soldiers were returning from war. The economy was booming and the middle class was expanding rapidly. The federal government offered subsidized loans to help returning soldiers buy homes.
At the employment offices, veterans got preferential treatment. They were the nation's heroes after all. There were low-cost home loans for veterans and low-interest loans to help them buy a farm or start a business. And many did just that.
This initiative institutionalized the concept that homeownership was the epitome of American success. The US government wanted to create stable communities and stimulate economic growth through the housing market and the construction industry. Suburbs started to grow, and with them, shopping centers, schools, hospitals, all of them started to grow like mushrooms, further boosting the economy. As time went by, the media contributed to this notion too. Movies and advertisements often portrayed happy, successful families living in their suburban homes with a white picket fence, a true dream come true. And over time, this image solidified into a cultural expectation. The ownership of a home came to symbolize freedom, success, and the attainment of the American dream. But it's time to wake up. That dream is a lot harder to attain now than before. Why, you ask? Well, where do I start? The purchasing power of the dollar has weakened. That's a fact. Many reasons have contributed to this, but one important factor is the increase of interest rates. That matters because a 1% increase in a mortgage rate can impact the type of the house that you can buy. Now, if you want to learn more about interest rates, take a look at this video up top. Now, take a look at the chart below. A $3,500 monthly payment can get you a house from $400,000 when the rate is 10% to a house worth $800,000 when the rate is 1%. That's crazy, right? And that's not all. Home prices have significantly gone up 118% relative to median household income, which is 50% after adjusting for inflation. And the cherry on top is that the gap between skills and high-paying jobs keeps getting wider and wider by the day. It certainly does feel like the deck is stacked more and more against you. It feels like the only people able to buy a family home nowadays are the consultants, the bankers, and the engineers, and not the entry-level ones, no, the senior level ones. Ask anyone living in the Bay Area. It's not for the soldiers anymore, it's for the elite, but I digress. Let's assume you actually fall into the privileged category of someone who has the option to buy a house. You have a decent paying job, you have some cash saved in the bank. Should you go ahead and buy a house? Well, math never lies. And my short answer based on math is no, at least not right now. Let me illustrate with an example if you look at this table right here. Let's say that you want to buy a house that's listed at $1 million. You have 20% of that in cash to make a down payment. This is probably the optimal ratio to buy a house, as many financial experts will tell you. That means you need a bank loan of $800,000. Now, on average in the US, banks are offering a 7.12% rate on a 30-year mortgage. Now, remember, this is stated on an annual basis, therefore you need to divide the rate by 12 and multiply the years by 12 to get a monthly view. After all, you're making monthly payments. With that information and some basic time value of money knowledge, you compute the monthly payments, which equals $5,387. Now, this is where it gets interesting. When you add up all the monthly payments, you get $1,939,338, the total cost of the loan. What that means is that you paid back $800,000 of the loan in full, also known as the principal and equity, and you paid the bank $1,139,338 in interest. In other words, for every dollar you paid for the $800,000 loan you took, you paid another $1.42 on interest on top. So talk about making the bank rich, right? If you're not shocked by now, let's compare that scenario with what you would have paid if this was 2020. So just right before the pandemic. 3 years ago, the average interest rate on a 30-year mortgage was 2.86%. That is 4.26% less than right now. I'll spare you all the math we did before, but two things stand out here. The monthly payment would have been $2,074 less than today, and you would have paid $392,582 in interest, or 49 cents of interest for every dollar of principal paid. Those numbers are significantly lower than the amount of cash you would have to disburse right now if you were to get a house. Now, an important thing to understand here is that the cost of doing X is not doing Y. So what I'm trying to tell you with this is that one of the most important financial concepts ever is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is just equals the chances you miss by not doing or doing something. The cost of eating cake every day is to not have a six-pack. The cost of binging on Netflix is not reading a book. And the cost of buying a house is not investing in something else that might have a better return. Think about it this way. What other things could you have done with that $1.1 million you paid the bank as interest? You could have invested it in the stock market, which tends to perform better than real estate. You could have started your own business, probably a few of them with that amount of capital. And you could have put it in a trust fund for your kids. The options are many. The key thing to understand here is which investment makes the most sense for you. And by now, you should see that a house is probably not the best one. At least not right now. I'll keep saying this. Bank won't help you make that decision. It's not in their best interest, funny word to use. This is why understanding the basics of personal finance is important. You should be able to make a quick spreadsheet like the one I showed you above to make an educated decision. This is the first step. There's many others like estimating the phantom costs, such as property taxes, repairs, maintenance, etc. In a span of 30 years, trust me, that will add up. So with that said, let me write the biggest disclosure of all. Buying a home is something very personal. And even if it doesn't make financial sense, it might make sense in some other way to you. For example, building a home for your kids to grow up. I just hope if you decide to buy a house, you do it being aware of the financial implications of it all. If you want any questions of this, please let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to help you or point you in the right direction. Hope this helps you with one of the biggest decisions in your life. If you like this video, please smash that like button, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao.